Two voices meet at the edge of a line. One sees the ocean, the other the pine. Grounded in truth with a spark in their eye, they bridge the divide where the answers lie. Blue dot, red state, the stories unfold, where the heart meets the mind and the truth is bold. Different roads travel, but the same sky above. In the colors of discord, they paint with love.
All right, guys, back again with Blue Dot Red State podcast. I'm here with two amazing guests. Um, amazing guests. Today, a special topic, Orange Shirt Day is really what we're going to talk about and like our personal connections. But before that, disclaimer, Blue Dot Red State is my personal views. I feel like a Blue Dot in the red state of South Dakota, but that is definitely not the views of any of the guests or anyone that comes on. That's just my views. But you've seen Dawn Marie before, but again, Dawn Marie Johnson, special guest. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, Dawn Marie, Sioux Falls School District School Board, Southeast Tech School Board, born raised on System Lake Traverse, currently reside in Sioux Falls. And then with us, we have someone I consider a friend, Mato Wayuhi. He's a local legend, especially for our students here in Sioux Falls. He claims to be the greatest South Dakotan, but I'm coming for you. But please give yourself a couple more things that you're known for. I could go on of all the projects you've been known for, but Reservation Dogs is one that comes top of mind. Motto, everybody.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you for the intro. Yeah, my name is Mato Ayuhi. I'm enrolled Oglala, eastern side of Pine Ridge, Wombly, and Heisel, and like a border town called Martin. And I grew up in Sioux Falls, and yeah, I do music and acting and stuff. I'm in this new show that's coming out right now. It's called The Lowdown. I'm doing some acting in that. So yeah, make sure you tune in. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you all. Awesome. So, so this is going to air on September 30th. It's going to air on Orange Shirt Day, and I just want to say, just as a personal connection, that was not something we discussed in our house. Obviously it started in 20. It's about 10 years old, right? 2015 is, I think, the official Orange Shirt Day Society like start. Obviously, we've been. This is something that's carried on for decades as a part of history. But I didn't personally and spend any energy or even have an acknowledgement of my own to do research in it till honestly probably like 5 years ago. And that's like that's like a burden on me to not spend that time and energy. But like what is your connections to Orange Shirt Day? Like where does that sit with you? Obviously it's a very sombering day, but it's also a very honoring day too at the same time.
For me, I feel like a lot of parallels within my family um, are so like Phyllis's story. She spoke about how she arrived at residential boarding school and she was so proud of her orange shirt. Like it was a new shirt, she's got her new things. And to show up to this new place and have that special shirt picked out, ripped away from her. I am a descendant of boarding school attendees, and the impacts of that on my family last today. The generational trauma looked something like alcoholism amongst my family. So my grandma and her siblings were all forced to go to boarding school, and there's still just that residual um, trauma from those things. So I feel deeply connected to it, and like you said, it wasn't very much of an awareness piece until recently, but I love seeing schools and engaging with schools who, have little ribbons passed out to all kids, so all kids are paying attention to it and learning about it. I know you and I, Billy, passed
Mhm.
out,
Yeah.
ribbons at Lincoln High School, where you went to school, and there was a lot of kids that were like, "Oh, yeah, I already know what this is, thank you." Like, that felt so, I don't know, I just felt seen. Kids already had that background education coming into the 30th on what that meant for some of us. So that's my connection. Mato, did they have that sort of stuff when you were there?
No, I think growing up, because similarly, I had a very much an intergenerational relationship with boarding schools and just kind of all of the measures that they took in terms of, colonization and whatnot. And education. And so, no, but it felt very private. Like we talked about it, but it was kind of like, I mean, it was traumatic for my grandma to bring up and also my dad to bring up because he went through boarding schools as well. And so, I had the really, great privilege of like not having that exposure growing up, even though, in my generation or our generation, it's, Indian schools are different. But, um, yeah, no, we didn't talk about it. It wasn't really like a point of conversation. I feel like it's kind of hit the zeitgeist in the past, like maybe 10 or 15 years. And I looked it up, and that day, the holiday is not even. I don't think it's even recognized in the U.S. It's like a Canada thing. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
that to me is kind of indicative of like the work that has to be done. But I'm grateful y'all are doing that. And like yeah, just doing things like this. And but yeah, I know for me personally, it was you definitely saw the effects of it. And once you get older, for me at least, I became an adult and I started kind of studying the history of boarding schools and also the effects of it, because it's interesting to know from a interpsychological standpoint what that trauma is. But then also if you look at the trends sociologically and everything, you kind of zoom out and like how you know, there's a suppression of language and culture and really just humanity. There's really like atrocities done, and then that affected the next generation who then was combative against that, where you get aim and stuff like that. You get kind of this like form of resistance, and then it ebbs and flows, and it's really interesting. So I've always thought about it on a grander scale, and what can I do now as like an artist and as a community worker and stuff to help um I don't know, continue culture and also do it in a way that feels participatory and sensitive and like tender and stuff like that. Because I think that's the greatest, um, I think atrocity that those schools did was just like strip children of their humanity and create lasting like negative repercussions and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. And how do we do that and be genuine at the same time? How do we do that without feeling grandstanding? That's my struggle sometimes. It's like, how do I honor this in the right way that doesn't feel like that's doing it justice and um not just putting on an orange shirt, right? For a picture on Instagram. Right? Like how do
Yeah.
like there's more than that, you know?
Yeah, for me personally, I, like Mato, had to take the time to educate myself. Similarly, my family didn't tell me about my grandma going to boarding school until she's long past. I found out way later. So there is a lot of sensitivity around it, but using social media as a positive is one of the few ways that I engage in people. I shared my orange shirt day photo yesterday to prepare people for Tuesday, but I give the historical background of it, talking about Phyllis, the actual person, her story, and then I give a little bit of my history with it and just encourage people to get curious. It's not like we're not shaming you for not knowing, because there's quite a few people I'll encounter that will say, I had no idea. It's not about shaming you. It's about, okay, now that you know and you have that piece of information, just be more aware. Be more aware of the golf course next to Hiawatha outside of Sioux Falls, that it's still connected and has burial grounds next to it. Be aware. So it's just more, I leverage social media in a positive way. It was great to see that my post got shared a couple, like, liked and shared a couple hundred times, because people were like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. What can I do? And that was one simple thing that people can do. So that's where I start. Again, it doesn't feel good, but you got to start somewhere.
Agree.
Yeah, I agree. I think too, like, there's a way that I have internalized what advocacy looks like and allyship. Um, because I'll like separate. I'll give an anecdote in terms of like, okay, so I'm not a Black person. I participate in Black culture as a hip hop artist, and I have Black family, and I have Black friends, and I belong to certain, Black and Native communities and stuff. How do I, as a non-Black person, uplift and celebrate Black culture and Black people, and do it in a way that is like, inherently, and also like, inherently criticizing and making sense of like anti-blackness and racism and stuff like that. But part of I think our job and our responsibility and kind of our opportunity too is to reimagine what advocacy looks like, what allyship looks like. So it doesn't have to be so explicit, like, I am going to hold up a picket sign that says like don't be racist or whatever. It's like, well, why don't you go to a drum class? Why don't you give money to an organization? Why don't you attend these things? Why don't you become part of the community? I think that is like
Mm,
a really important thing, because is the way it's very like very like dichotomous in terms of how we think of like getting involved. Or it's like, well, I either have to like, be opposed to something, or I have to like become a super big like you know activist in regards. And some people don't have the capacity to do that, or they don't want to, or they just want to focus on like a positive aspect to the work and the movement and stuff. So I feel like, to tie this back to this in terms of like, you don't want to feel grandstanding, or you don't want to feel like you're just putting on a shirt and then what. It's like, well, there's huge moments of, yeah, just supporting indigenous artists, befriending native people, because that's the biggest thing I always come back to, is like the humanity was stripped from our ancestors, the humanity
mhm.
was stripped from us, and like in a place like South Dakota, though there are great parts to it, there's still such like deep rooted racism, deep rooted injustice, and all the types of things, which is a whole other thing. But I feel like for something like this, in terms of like, okay, the facts of what boarding schools were, intergenerational trauma, that what that causes in terms of like different social impacts of poverty and violence and all these different types of things. It's like, okay, cool. Well, I'm gonna, go to a whatever Indian art center or something, and like help volunteer. I'm going to help do these things. I'm going to help make impact. I'm going to do that interpersonal work, because I feel like that to me is as impactful as, yeah, being more of like the kind of more vocal, like wearing the shirt and everything like that. And that's kind of what I do, because there's a lot of work that I have to do too, and that's where I'm coming from in terms of like, okay, when I work with students, when I work with youth, when I visit,
Mhm.
places like Whittier middle school, it's like, how can I make those types of impacts from like an interpersonal standpoint?
No,
Yeah,
so
I'm
true.
so glad you did that too. Thanks for he got to see my daughter like her second day of school.
Wow.
I
Yeah,
know.
sweet.
That was the
I bet
talk of
I
the
bet
town.
Rain was like loving that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh I I I no, that hit on such a big point. And one, I get to spend my day today uh at Cheyenne River Youth Project. So like I like I you just like spoke to my heart of like living, and like a part of being in it is being in the community, right? Like we all advocate in so many different ways, and being a part of community is living that out, and however we feel that is it's different for everyone. And so that just really spoke, so thank you.
Yeah. I love like when we can humanize the situation, because I always say it's hard to care from a distance. So just utilizing that opportunity to go in and mentor students that don't look like you gives such a different layer of humanizing all people to care. And it seems like so simple, but until everyone experiences mentoring a young person that doesn't look like them, I think we're still just going to feel this divide because it's just all about getting back to the basics of caring for one another. It shouldn't be that hard.
We're honestly at the end of our time, shockingly. I will say this, for sure. I'm gonna end on like if you all have any advice on like what's one thing someone can do today, like a baby step, and I will start by saying I read The Boy from Pickerel Lake, and that book is like teeny tiny, right? Like it's the book you can read in like honestly like an hour and a half. Well, maybe for me, maybe fast readers can read it in like 45 minutes. I don't know. But it's a good start. It's a baby step for someone who just doesn't have any type of knowledge um into this. So I that would be my baby step. Do you guys have any baby steps for anyone to make a positive difference? It doesn't have to be specifically on.
For sure the mentoring. We have a lot of schools that are primarily kids of color here in Sioux Falls that don't receive a lot of applicants for mentorship, which is very heartbreaking because they're the ones who deserve it the most. All kids deserve it, but we'll go with that. So mentorship is a big deal. And then like the simplicity of knowing there's a Native American Day parade. If you've never done anything or seen a smidgen of culture, do something that's in your area. If there's like a wachipi going on, look up how to be respectful and just show up to those things. And if you see our faces there, we'll be happy to guide you so you're not freaked out. But it's you're always welcome.
Yeah, I think those are great things. I would say like yeah, like um don't make excuses out of any sort of like internalized guilt that you might have as being like a non-native person. Cause I get it. It's hard. Like, you like, there's like an underlying deep shame with not, being on stolen land in South Dakota and, you know, seeing these different things. And there might be some internalized things about like how you were grown, you were raised to view Native Americans and whatnot. And so like I would say like understand that, listen to it, but also yeah, come in full fledged with just joy, like be a guest in the community and ask questions and have fun. And like it's funny because like, speaking just from my like Lakota background, I grew up with a lot like in the ceremony even, I grew up with a lot of non-Lakotas because they would just come and they would ask questions and they want to become involved and they find something in our spirituality, and a lot of people do worldwide. And so I would say like, yeah, within folks in if they're in Sioux Falls or just South Dakota is like, yeah, I would like, um, you know, relinquish yourself of any like expectation or any feeling of like you shouldn't be somewhere and just come in courteous, respectful, and yeah, have fun. And you'll see kind of like the vibrancy of Native community. And also I think that'll help you internalize like what's going on from an intergenerational standpoint. And then yeah, I feel like yeah, because and what Don Marie, what you said about like yeah, like it's mentoring and being with a child or a student that doesn't look like you, that's like huge, that's like super
Mhm.
transformative. And so if you extend that to yeah, community dancing with people who don't look like you, hearing
Mm.
language isn't yours, especially in this political climate. I mean, it's such a like it's such a like brave and important thing to do right now is to uplift these types of different underrepresented voices specifically in South Dakota, and so yeah, I think there's like a lot of great things you can do in that regard.
Y'all
Agreed.
made my day. We're ending on that. It's positive. We're ending on good notes, and we're sending good energy out to the world today. So, thank you all so much. I appreciate you, and go put some good energy out.
Two voices
Thank
meet
you.
at the edge of a line. One sees the ocean, the other the pine. Grounded in truth with a spark in their eye, they bridge the divide where the answers lie. Blue dot, red state, the stories unfold where the heart meets the